We now need to move into our second round of lighting talks. This session will explore new behaviors, digital tools, and the UN.0 quintet of change can help us reimagine what's possible for human rights. Each speaker from this session will offer a short provocation. As you listen, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to notice the common thread of how we keep human beings at the center of technology and institutional transformation. With this, I would like to invite our next speaker, Katy Knight, Executive Director and a President of the Siegel Family Endowment. Katy will reflect on what she calls the imagination gap and why human rights offers one of the strongest frameworks for thinking about the future of technology and infrastructure. Katy, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. As a leader of a technology and society-focused philanthropy, I'm involved in a lot of conversations that have made all of us so aware of what technology is doing to us. AI threatening jobs, algorithms amplifying hate, platforms eroding privacy. These conversations are important and necessary. We definitely have urgent challenges to address in order to make sure technology remains beneficial for humanity. But I want to talk about something that I think we've lost in all this urgency, our ability to imagine technology designed differently from the start. I want to encourage you all to consider the importance of addressing an imagination gap, the space between the technology we have and the technology we could build if we remembered that, like my friend Michelle Jawando of Wikimedia Network would say, our tech future isn't destiny, it's design. And I want to make the case that the best tool we have to close this imagination gap is sitting right in front of us, decades of experience building a global human rights framework. Growing up, I didn't know or understand much about technology as an industry because where I come from, most people don't make it to the technology industry with all of its wealth and privilege. When I entered the industry, I learned so much about the power that technology companies and the developers of these tools have. The experience taught me that we're operating under narratives that constrain what we think is possible in these spaces. And I want to call out 3 of them explicitly for your consideration. The first is the trap of false dichotomies. We're constantly told we have to choose between competing values, like technology itself is demanding that we pick sides, privacy or security, as if we must surrender our data for progress, US leadership or Chinese dominance, as if tech's future must be owned by one national superpower, regulation or growth, as if protecting people and advancing technology are incompatible, Elon Musk or Sam Altman, as if our choices are limited to which billionaire's vision we prefer, open AI or closed systems, as if transparency and security can't coexist. But these aren't real trade-offs. They're failures of imagination dressed up as inevitability. They're design choices that serve particular interests, not laws of nature. We see efforts to change these dichotomies every day in our work at Siegel. One that I'd like to call out today is our partners at Research and Development Lab New Public, who recently announced the launch of a beta of a new form of social media, allowing neighbors to connect with each other in a space that's motivated by the hope of building social bonds rather than profit. We talk about digital rights as if they're something new, something separate, as if the right to privacy online is fundamentally different from the right to privacy offline, as if freedom of expression changes its nature when it moves through fiber optic cables instead of over airwaves. This separation fragments our advocacy and dilutes our impact. It suggests that human rights principles, tested and refined over 80 years, somehow don't apply in digital spaces. But here's what we've learned. We're not inventing new rights. We're applying enduring principles to new places. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a remarkably durable document, precisely because it forces us to ask the right questions regardless of circumstance. Does this respect human dignity? Does this protect autonomy? Does this advance equality? These questions don't change whether we're talking about a town square or a social media platform. The framework doesn't need updating. We need to stop pretending it doesn't apply. The myth that only a handful of people in a handful of places will build our technological future is my third myth. We've accepted that innovation happens in Silicon Valley, Shenzhen, and a few other tech hubs. That the people designing AI, building platforms, and writing the code that structures our lives will be drawn from a narrow demographic in a narrow set of places. This isn't just inequitable, it's dangerous. When technology is designed by and for a small slice of humanity, it reflects a limited imagination of what's possible and who matters. We've seen that reflected here in the States in our work in rural America, where so often technology investors overlook the power and potential of small towns and communities outside of the coastal areas to build new technology products. But when we do invest, we see them come up with these incredible products that solve manufacturing, agriculture, and other major issues that actually impact people's lives and businesses. So if those are the narratives that we reject, what do we imagine instead? We imagine technology where privacy and innovation reinforce each other, where protecting data isn't a barrier to progress, but a design constraint that sparks creativity. We imagine digital and human rights as inseparable, where every tech policy conversation starts with fundamental questions about dignity, autonomy, and equality, not as an afterthought, but as the foundation. We imagine technology built by the full breadth of humanity, where the people most affected by technological systems have real power in designing them. We don't need a new framework. We need the courage to use the one we have with more imagination. The future of technology isn't predetermined. Every algorithm, every interface, every system is the result of choices made by people. And if people made those choices, people can make different ones. The imagination gap isn't a lack of technical capacity. It's a failure to ask, what could we build if we started with human dignity instead of ending with it as a checkbox on a list of compliance requirements? What could we build if we refused false trade-offs? What could we build if we brought the full force of human rights thinking to technology from day one, not as a constraint, but as a catalyst? The human rights framework is definitely not outdated for the digital age. We've simply stopped imagining boldly enough about what it could build and what we could build with it. So here's my challenge. Let's close the imagination gap. Let's design technology around dignity, not accept tech's trajectory as destiny. Let's remember that human rights isn't just a lens for critique, it's a blueprint for creation. Thank you.
Thank you, Katy, for reminding us that imagination and infrastructure must move together, and that every investment decision is ultimately a human rights decision. We are now going to move to our next speaker, Ayaka Suzuki, from the Executive Office of the Secretary General. She is going to help us steer the UN 2.0 and UN 80 agendas. Ayaka is going to speak about how Quintet of Change is reshaping the way the UN works and what that means for delivering human rights. Ayaka, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Human Rights Day. So, as you all know, the UN turned 80 this year. And at the same time, our mission remains the same. Peace and security, human rights, sustainable development. But as you all know, the world around us has changed so much. The speed, complexity, and technology that we see accelerating are unlike anything that the founders of the UN in 1945 could have ever imagined. So to remain effective, we really need to evolve. And that means the way we work. And I believe that is really the thrust of this, this initiative that OHCHR has embarked on. And it's not because our mission has changed, as I said, but because our operating environment has changed. So the UN cannot deliver 21st century result with 20th century tools. And this is why we need a UN 2.0, which is a system equipped with the skills, culture, and capabilities required to deliver our timeless mission, which is always going to be timely for a UN system under incredible pressure. And here I just wanted to talk about, and this echoes a little bit what the previous speaker had alluded to. UN 2.0 is not about gadgets or apps. It's really not about technology, right? It's really is about how we apply new skills and a new way of working for the UN. So it centers on mainstreaming 5 capability across the system, so that are data, digital innovation, foresight, and behavioral science. And I'm so glad that Cass Sunstein is going to be speaking after me, because we really have benefited from his insight when we were starting to operationalize our quintet of change. So it's not isolated in IT or statistics or units. We have to make sure that these skills are embedded in every program, every entity, and every team. And in the context of what we're talking about today, to advancing human rights. And these are the capabilities that allow us to anticipate, adapt, and deliver more effectively. And we already see what becomes possible when mission meets modern capability. For example, in the context of UN 80, we have developed a new tool called, which is you see on the screen now, UN Mandate Source Registry. It is it's something that is a no-brainer. But up until now, the UN system never had a quick go-to place to look up what mandate exists on any given topics. And we were able to do this fairly quickly, leveraging AI tools. For example, in trade, our colleagues in SCAP and ACA have developed an AI-assisted trade negotiation tool to improve the outcomes and helping their member states participate and more fine-tune their trade negotiation strategies. We're improving humanitarian assistance. The DISHA initiative of the UN Global Pulse, they have been assisting or collaborating with partners, including UNOSAT, to help enhance the damage mapping processes through AI-assisted satellite damage assessment imageries. And that reduces assessment time for faster humanitarian relief. So this is exactly a type of transformation that UN 2.0 is aiming to scale, helping every team, every function, and every entity working with more confidence, speed, and effectiveness. Now, many of you inside the UN know that we are at a very critical moment. We are under significant global pressure, financial constraints, and there is a major reform process underway called the UN 80 initiative. Across the proposals, one theme is consistent. We need to make sure that the UN is fit for future, fit for purpose. And you may have heard this when we talked about UN 2.0, because UN 2.0 is ultimately at the core of UN 80 as well. UN 80 is about not necessarily doing more with less. It's not that. I mean, we are less because we've had to reduce our size due to financial constraints. But this is about rising to the occasion to do differently. And UN 2.0 capabilities allow us to do that. Across all UN 80 work streams, it is about reducing duplication, reducing fragmentation, and delivering better with more impact on our ground. So we have been using UN 2.0 capabilities within the UN 80 initiative process. As I already just told you, the AI tools in creating the mandate registry. But we have also used AI to help us with the analytical work and really trying to, and the reports that you see in front of you, and I hope you have a chance to read them, we have leveraged these capabilities. And in particular, I would like to draw your attention to the specific UN 2.0 related proposals. So that also include, I mean, I just told you about how we can leverage AI in the future to assist member states in better mandate creation, analysis, and review. In peace and security pillar, they are envisioning joint programs to pull data, digital and AI capacity. There is also an initiative within the new humanitarian compact on humanitarian data collaborative for joint capacity, financing, and products. And importantly, there will be a technology accelerator platform to surge digital and AI expertise, especially to those smaller entities that may not be able to invest as much if they are able to do this on their own. And then finally, and this is very exciting to most colleagues who worked in the UN for many years, data commons to connect all data and statistics across the UN system. So this really, I think this moment offers to all of us a great opportunity, not only to adapt for change, but to use this moment to build a UN that is stronger, more agile, and better equipped to serve people in the decades ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ayaka, for grounding us in how institutional transformation can deliver real impact for people on the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, we now turn into integrity and freedom of expression. Rebecca MacKinnon, who leads global advocacy at the Wikipedia Foundation, will talk us on protecting Wikipedia as a bastion of truth in the age of distortion, and what it takes to defend public knowledge spaces as a global public good. Rebecca, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation to speak with all of you today. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to have some slides, so let's just see if those are appearing. I can't quite tell. Here we are. Great. Wonderful. So I represent the Wikimedia Foundation, which is the NGO that supports Wikipedia and other volunteer-run free knowledge projects. And this coming January actually marks the 25th anniversary of Wikipedia's creation. A whole generation has grown up depending on Wikipedia for their schoolwork, but now people around the world are depending on Wikipedia as more than that, as a UN-recognized digital public good, and the backbone increasingly for human-created and verified information in hundreds of languages amidst the rising synthetic noise. Next slide, please. Could we have the next slide, please? Let's see here. There should be a picture of a lot of people. Can you see it? Ah, there we go. Wonderful. So this is a picture from our most recent conference called Wikimania, held in Nairobi just last August, which gathered a fraction of people who edit Wikipedia and other Wikimedia projects in over 300 languages from around the world. Next slide, please. All the information on Wikipedia is added and curated by hundreds of thousands of volunteers, like the people you see in this picture. Wikipedia's volunteer editors, not the foundation that employs myself and other staff, primarily engineers and software developers. It's the volunteers that maintain the information according to strong editorial standards that they also create and uphold. Next, please. Our affiliate organizations, independent NGOs that support Wikipedians around the world, do a lot of work connecting Wikipedia editors with archives, museums, galleries, and libraries in their countries and communities in order to make sure that troves of human-made, human-curated content from their archives and institutions gets well and accurately represented in the digital world. Next. Wikipedia also has a very symbiotic and interdependent relationship with journalism. Journalists produce original reporting, as you'll see in this article about the new Pope. Wikipedians curate encyclopedia entries on similar topics that cite journalism, along with other sources that the editors have agreed are reliable. Next slide, please. You'll see here a list of different tabs on any given Wikipedia page. In addition to the page with the encyclopedia entry, there is also a tab you can click on where you can discuss with other editors how to improve the content in that article. There's a third tab that shows you the history of every single edit anyone has ever made to that article, and a tab where you can start editing yourself. So this is an extremely transparent process that the editors have developed over the last 25 years. Next slide, please. And here is a content review flowchart. Well, so many people use Wikipedia. I imagine probably everybody listening to me does. I'm finding that a lot of people are not aware of how the content quality is maintained. So if someone makes an edit, there's a whole system of workflows to ensure that that edit is of high quality, that it adheres to the rules of what constitutes reliably sourced encyclopedic content and what doesn't, in which case it would need to be removed. And there's specific rules that vary depending on subject matter. Scientific content has more rigorous sourcing requirements than entertainment, for example. Next slide, please. And here's a simple chart just to give you a high-level sense of Wikipedia's volunteer-run governance system. Experienced editors are elected from among their peers to perform a range of roles, including arbitration of disputes about particular content. Next slide, please. So it is that governance system that is by no means a free-for-all, despite the need for free speech to protect our editor's ability to set up its governance system. That governance system is now one of the key bulwarks against the rise of AI, slop propaganda, AstroTurf, etc. And so we need, I'm going to spend the rest of my time talking about what we need to ensure that the ecosystem of public interest information, creators, and projects that Wikipedia is at the center of can survive and thrive. And of course, this requires resources in addition to protecting of rights. Next slide, please. As many of you know, news organizations are struggling to protect their business models and their ability to continue to employ journalists as their websites get crawled by AI companies. We are not trying to get paid for Wikipedia's content because it's free and we don't own it. But next, our technical infrastructure is not free. The stress on our systems by large language model AI scrapers endangers access for the general public in public interest projects that use our data sustainably. So we're asking the AI companies to support our infrastructure that they benefit from financially, and we are making some headway. But we're facing other threats as well that we need the UN system and UN member states to back us up on. Next slide, please. The quality of Wikipedia's content and our ability to fight disinformation and synthetic content is threatened also by mounting threats to our people. Next. It will not be news to this audience that last year the Committee to Protect Journalists reported an unprecedented rise in attacks on the press all across the world, which of course, if journalists can't report accurate information, we don't have good sources to cite. But more directly, next slide, please. What you may not know is that Wikipedia is also facing mounting threats from politicians and other powerful people and organizations who increasingly are trying to take us to court to get content removed through slap lawsuits and other types of non-legal threats. Next slide, please. Some organizations, entities are even trying to come up with ways to expose the identities of individual Wikipedia editors in ways that could put them in physical dangers, which is, of course, causing our lawyers and security teams to work overtime to protect our people and infrastructure. Next slide, please. Which brings us back to what our previous speakers were saying. And that Katy Knight emphasized so eloquently. We need to make sure that laws and regulations are better aligned with human rights standards and remain aligned with human rights standards. Next slide, please. We have developed what we like to call the Wikipedia test. It's a test that policymakers and policy advocates can use to determine whether their proposal for internet regulation, if they're trying to rein in the harms that they feel are caused by big tech, trying to rein in and prevent harms caused by AI and new technologies, if businesses are coming up with legal proposals to protect their business model and want their lawmakers to enact those laws to protect children and other vulnerable groups online in the midst of rising complexity. We need to make sure that these laws don't inadvertently harm the ability of Wikipedians and Wikipedia to do their work or threaten them physically. Next slide, please. So we have developed a rubric where you can check to make sure that a particular law or legal proposal might inadvertently empower governments or other economic actors to infringe on internet users' freedom of expression and privacy, without which Wikipedians cannot edit and govern Wikipedia. And in short, if you go through this test, you'll see it's very much aligned with human rights standards, not only freedom of expression and the right to privacy, and the right also to access to information, the right to organize, the ability of our communities to form projects and govern those projects in accordance with human rights standards is also essential and connects back to what Katy was saying about the importance of supporting the right of communities to innovate and develop technical solutions that serve their needs. And Wikipedia is one example, one of perhaps the oldest examples of a model for doing that at scale. And we believe that the Wikipedia test can also be applied to ensure that laws and regulations enable new projects to survive and enable the public interest information ecosystem to grow. Final slide, please. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to any discussion.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. I must say, with your talk, you managed to highlight how essential it is to protect the digital commons if we want people to access accurate and independent information about their rights. Our final lightning talk in this block, ladies and gentlemen, will focus on behavior and decision making. And it is my honor to be announcing that we are joined by Professor Kes Sunstein, University Professor at Harvard and author of Nudge. He will reflect on how behavior science can support better choices by institutions and societies when it comes to digital technology and human rights. Prof, thank you for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It's a particular honor to be here today because I have a letter from my father from 80 years ago, a little more. He fought in World War II, and 80 years ago, plus a couple months, he found himself in San Francisco. And to my astonishment, a letter I have from him to my mother says they're here from all over the world. They are here from France. They're here from the United Kingdom. Maybe he said England. They're here from everywhere. And then he ended, let's pray that they accomplish something. So to be able to speak with you on this occasion is a signal honor. I've written a lightning book for you. It consists of a preface and 2 chapters. It's a really short book. And a lot of the material you're about to hear is new. The preface is called Proximity and Proximity Bias. And here we go with the preface. It's data. People are more likely to receive health care when they live near hospitals. In a major city, increased distance to the nearest hospital increases deaths from heart attacks and injuries. In Italy, in the aftermath of road accidents, people are more likely to get medical help if they live nearby. 1 standard deviation increase in distance to the closest hospital increases the fatality rate by almost 14%. The likelihood of voting increases if people live near polling places. In 2 large places, a 1-mile increase in distance reduces the likelihood of voting by 1 to 3 percentage points. The presence of a participating vaccination site in a county leads to a 26% increase in the number of doses administered per capita, establishing that proximity and familiarity play a big role in vaccine take-up. The likelihood that people are going to be evicted from their homes jumps if people don't live near the courthouse. That's a staggering finding. The reason is that people who don't live close to the courthouse don't contest their convictions. They are defaulted and they are told they have to leave their homes. If they live close, they come. We know that if there is a place that has an office that helps people get assistance to which they have a legal right, and it's near people, the likelihood that they will get assistance that can change or even save their lives increases. Closing a public assistance office cuts participation by 7 to 9% over 2 years. And as offices open and provide help to people, increase in participation jump. These are pieces of evidence documenting the importance of proximity to human rights outcomes and the importance of proximity bias, meaning the way the human mind works. If something is far away, people often think, I'm just not going to show up, even if showing up is essential to their enjoying human rights. Okay, that's the preface. Chapter 1 is called Sludge. Distance is a form of sludge. If you have to go somewhere, you have to navigate roads, maybe something else, in order to arrive. Think of sludge as obstacles and burdens in the form of waiting time, complicated forms, in-person interview requirements, engagement with private or public authorities. These are forms of friction that are often the chief obstacle to the enjoyment of human rights. The cases I gave include access to housing, voting, and healthcare. Those are just examples of human rights inflected things that sludge can prevent access to. We can think of sludge as time taxes, and sometimes people refuse to pay. They don't show up. In many nations, there are millions or even billions of hours in time taxes. Those can be a more formidable barrier than money to some people who are dealing with employment needs or familial needs, and the time tax is something they're just not in a position to pay. We can think of sludge as an absence of proximity writ very large, where we think of proximity not just as geographical distance, but as something that separates people from rights enjoyment and where they are right now. A little behavioral science is in my job contract, so I have to give you some right now. Thank you for indulging. If people were perfectly rational, if they assess costs and benefits as governments, including governments in the United Nations, thought in the 1960s and 1970s, physical distance or paperwork burdens or in-person interviews or waiting time would be an obstacle to rights enjoyment. We know from 30 years of research that people are not perfectly rational, that they often procrastinate and think, I will go there tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. People focus on the short term. That's often essential in order to get through life. If you show present bias, as it's called, the future is a foreign country, let's call it laterland, and people aren't sure they're ever going to visit, which means their opportunity to get the preconditions for rights just isn't available. People tend to be unrealistically optimistic. 90% of people have been found to think they're better than the average driver. 100% of people have been found to think that their sense of humor is better than the average sense of humor. If people are unrealistically optimistic, sludge is something they think they will navigate, but they won't. Inertia is an immensely powerful force, especially for people who are subject to circumstances of deprivation and distress. In the face of inertia, something like sludge will be an insuperable wall, not between a country and immigrants, though that too, but between human beings who are seeking to enjoy rights and the actual real world enjoyment of rights. These findings about present bias, procrastination, unrealistic and optimism, and inertia are fundamental to work being done at the United Nations and everywhere else. Cognitive scarcity is a kind of general phenomenon that amplifies the effects of all of these things. Each of us has limited processing power. If we are elderly or sick or subject to domestic violence or struggling with economic difficulty, we will be focusing on the thing that is the source of our distress, which means our ability to navigate sludge or distance will be compromised, not because of anything wrong with us, but because of the circumstances in which we find ourselves, which suggests that sludge is not only a problem for human rights and human welfare writ large, it's also a problem for justice writ large. That's chapter 2 on chapter 1 on sludge. Now chapter 2, the final chapter, which is on sludge reduction. All over the world with UN leadership, we are seeing sludge audits. There is at the OECD an International Sludge Academy, which is focusing on getting clarity on, for example, a lack of proximity and its consequences, where lack of proximity might be geographical, or it might be just paperwork burdens and in-person interview requirements that make it really difficult for people to get access to what they have a legal right to. Sludge audits are uncovering challenges, let's say, and barriers that are not intended in many cases by any public official and that are often a nightmare to the very public officials who oversee the sludge that their institutions are responsible for, but which no human being ever decided was a good idea. Sludge audits are essential to the enjoyment of human rights. We might be thinking about clean air or clean water. We might be thinking about freedom from private violence. We might be thinking about access to essential services. We might be thinking about property rights themselves. You can't have those things if sludge separates people from the thing they have a right to. Sludge audits need to be accompanied by sludge removal. And we're seeing in governments, wealthy and not so wealthy, sustained efforts to remove sludge so that people fill out no forms rather than 10 forms, or one form rather than 7 forms, or fill out a form annually rather than quarterly, or don't have to go someplace to visit, but can simply make a click on their phone, thus reducing time taxes dramatically. Part of the beauty of AI is that it can be enlisted to remove sludge. We are in very early stages there. We are also in extremely promising and beautiful uncharted territory where AI is being used at the UN and elsewhere to reduce sludge, not only for people who are overseeing programs, but equally fundamentally for people who need access to programs so that they can enjoy rights and live longer, better lives. Examples include increased simplification of access to services and processes, automaticity, and the like, where automaticity should be a human rights word, not a word associated particularly with technology companies. That's the second chapter and the only other chapter I have. I do have an epilogue, and the epilogue is that sludge audits and sludge reduction, increases in proximity, overcoming proximity bias, all that panoply of reforms is not now part of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It would be a little adventurous to say they belong there, but it's not adventurous to say, with the aid of the technological extraordinariness that we are surrounded by, let's get, shall we, all of the world, including the most vulnerable people, adjacent to a situation in which sludge reduction and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights are marching hand in hand. Thank you.
A big thank you to all the three speakers for those concise yet powerful contributions. You have taken us from institutional reform to investment to information integrity to behavior and decision making. Exactly the kind of cross-cutting perspective we need if we are serious about advancing human rights in the digital age.